Hello, it's your main man, the Pan Man. This is the final video in a short video series I'm doing to promote my upcoming Game Music Remix Series guide. Everything in this video series is covered inside of the e-guide, so if you're interested in all and anything written here or in the previous videos, check out the link in the description below to sign up for the waitlist, and when it releases, you will be granted with a 50% discount for a limited time just for you guys. If you're working for a client or a commission or just want to improve your speed in general as writing music, it's important that you are not fast but efficient in the processes. You know where to go to reach for what, you know what you're doing, you know exactly what goal you're trying to get to when it comes to writing. Speed comes from efficiency, to which if there's too much friction, you lose a lot of that. This video gives you ideas on how to improve your efficiency and your workflow and just increase your productivity when it comes to making music in general. The first tip here is to dissect your workflow. There are generally three phases when it comes to music production. The concept phase is exactly what it sounds like. It's coming up with the idea or the concept of the song before anything hits the page. The drafting phase is flushing out what you thought of in the concept phase. Comparatively, imagine like a digital artist. Before, they were just thinking about what they want to draw, but now for the drafting phase, they're just doing like a rough pencil sketch, just getting the general framework out of the way. And of course, the production phase, you already know that it's basically cleaning up or enhancing whatever you have in the drafting phase until the final product is complete. Every workflow, every type of workflow is basically a mixture of how fast or slow they get through one of these three phases. So if you put your own workflow against this, you can put a little magnifying glass on what exactly is slowing you up. When you do it like that, you basically find your bottleneck in your workflow. And being able to identify where that bottleneck is, you can start coming up with individual solutions to help you out. If you're like me, a slow, messy writer, one of the reasons I was so slow is because I kept combining like all three of these phases at once for every single song. And depending on like what your system is or what your process is, different things are going to hold you up. For me, I had a slower computer, so working with sample libraries, imagine me trying to write a part, but I was stopping at like small little parts because I had to tweak the sample libraries to get the desired sound I want. After that, I would move on to the bass or the chords, and then same process. I would stop right there, make sure that it sounded good on the sample library end. But when it came time to write more moving forward, like for example, I wrote a melody for A block, but I couldn't come up with anything for B block. That's because I had wasted all my energy and mental energy, like making sure that first part sounded good, you know what I mean? So for me, what I did is that I started writing my work, especially my orchestral work, in MIDI format. I do it for two reasons, one of which we'll talk about next, but this is one of the reasons. I was trying to solidify that composition phase, which is basically the drafting phase. So I wrote MIDI as a part of the drafting phase, which allowed the concept phase to like flow a little bit more smoother. There was a more smooth transition from the concept to the drafting phase. And you can find signs of this again in like every workflow. For the orchestrator, their drafting phase is likely writing out sheet music. Others have fast enough computers to where they can do all this on the fly. And they know exactly how their sample libraries work, they know exactly how to speed through the process. But some people, like me, I'm too fixated on wanting to tweak stuff in real time. But because I had a slow computer, I just couldn't do that. So I had to find something else that worked for me. Again, this idea is very simple to some, but for others, it's really powerful because it helps you figure out exactly what's holding you up. And the moment you fix that, you're going to notice your workflow is going to start improving a lot better. At the very least, you're going to have some sort of like consistency. If I were to start an orchestral song now, I know it'll take me roughly 2 weeks now. That's because I know how fast I am in the concept phase, I know how fast I am in the drafting phase, and I know the production phase is going to eat up the most amount of my time. Knowing that, you can tell your clients exactly how long it's going to take for you to make that one piece of music. Now, obviously it depends, but you get my point here. Just knowing your phases helps you figure out how fast you write. And you can use that as a negotiating tool or as a marketing tool to help attract potential clients. You can let your clients know, like, hey, you need to contact me in this amount of time so I have just enough time to make it the way you want me to make it, like stuff like that. So learn to dissect your workflow. It definitely helps you to at least identify where you're getting hung up at when you're struggling. Tip 2 parries really well off the drafting phase. This is another reason why I started writing my stuff in MIDI format. You need to get the framework of the song done ASAP, like as fast as possible. You need to get from the intro of the song to the outro of the song as fast as possible. You don't want to spend too much time on what's in between. To some people, that means writing everything in lead sheet format. Me, what I used to do, it used to just be 3 tracks, that's it. That was enough that I needed to get me from the intro to the outro of the song, from point A to point B. I didn't come up with counter melodies or anything like that. It was literally one line of melody, monophonically, the chords and the drums. So writing linearly means writing straight through. Like, I know that's what the word means, but that's not what some creators do. That's not what some producers do. They like to write like a 4-bar melody or something like that. And then they like to flush out those 4 bars with the chords, exactly how the chords are going to sound, exactly how it's going to sound. They basically try to build the live production off those 4 chords. They try to write as much inside of those 4 chords as possible, as far as like the final production is concerned. When it comes time to move on away from those 4 bars and maybe make the next 4 bars or the next 8 bars or whatever, they're mentally drained because they spent all that mental energy writing downward. They're more likely to be lazier when they're moving on. They're more likely to like cut corners when they're actually trying to finish the song. They're more likely to get writer's block because they've just wasted all that mental energy writing horizontally. And a bit of a side note, this is another reason why I specifically use like MIDI sound fonts. My brain knows no matter what I do is not going to sound anything remotely close to what I have in my head. So as such, I don't even think about trying to make it sound good. I'm not using like expression controls. I'm not using modulation. I'm just doing simple velocity. If it hurts my ears, I turn the velocity down, that's it. Like, there's no friction when I'm writing MIDI. And I'm not using sound libraries either, so I don't have to worry about expression controls. Like, I don't like how this brass sounds when I rag a mod wheel up. Let me go ahead and tweak that mod wheel. None of that. It's straight through. And another thing I've noticed with me personally, my best music comes when I write music this way. Like when I'm focused on melody, I focus more on the melodics. I just hear my music improving when I do it that way. Like you can tell a very big difference. The third tip is a bit experimental. I can understand if you wouldn't want to latch onto this one, but work in the morning or at night. Like work when you are not sleepy or exhausted, but when your brain is like intellectually like drained. Like I notice that I get more work, I'm more creative when I'm a little sleepy, when I'm a little tired. Like my brain just doesn't want to think about anything too much, so anything I come up with just sounds good by default. That's actually how Let's Dance, the royalty-free track, was made, by the way. Most of that, composition-wise, was made at night. Again, a bit unhealthy. Some people may not want to try this, some people do. It's one of those things you really have to try. If it doesn't work for you, then just don't. But just something I wanted to highlight here, because I have noticed a difference in my own writing. And I switch between the two, by the way. I'm not, like, exhausting myself. The fourth tip, have some form of mixing system. You'll see many producers like upping this method as well. I support it as well. Have a general mixing system that you reach for, that you know that you're going to reach for. For me, my mixing system is generally gain staging, a little bit of EQ and compression. Once that's done, I utilize a mixing trick I learned called rainbow mixing, where you listen to the individual frequencies specifically for things that are and are not supposed to be in particular frequencies. After that, I use Sound ID reference to do a final balance check before I'm done. I know exactly what tools I'm going to be reaching for. I reach a little bit for FabFilter, I reach a little bit for stock. That's it. I'm not like fumbling around with what I'm trying to do. I know exactly how I mix my music. And again, that contributes to how long it's going to take for you to do X, Y, Z. If you can calculate your mixing phase through a mixing system, it gives you that time frame to tack onto that as well. Tip 5 is to revive, revisit, reconceptualize older projects that you've had. I'm sure you're sitting on a lot of old projects that like you were supposed to make but they never got made. If you're working for a client or if you need some new inspiration, literally copy and paste those older projects into your new one. A good chunk of my royalty-free music is just reconceptualizations of old music I've done way in the past, and some of this is like blatantly obvious, and others like is music that I haven't released ever, period, so most people wouldn't know about it. Pulling up those old tracks and just taking motifs and taking melodies and chord progressions from them. Technically, they don't exist, so make them exist in your new projects, you know? It's also good for writer's block as well, if I didn't mention that already. The final tip is to use and create templates. I know you've seen this floating around before. It's very useful, especially for orchestral writing. If you can avoid having to have to add that second flute part, it'd be easier if that flute part was on its own track. Let me just make a new track. That by itself is fine, But when you have that times 20 trying to make an orchestral track, that can slow you down a little bit. So having all of that done and ready, really, really good. Works for sample libraries too. If you know you have a sample library that doesn't eat up a lot of space, that can load very quickly, it's also very flexible, and just put that on a template and you're already ready to go the moment you open the project. It just saves so much time. Alright, this is the final video of this short little video series, video 6. I just wanted to give a final thank you for joining me up to this point. This is my first time doing something like this. Please leave some feedback, like as far as like how I construct these video series, because I want to improve this. If this works the way I think it's going to work, you're going to be seeing me do this a lot, and I hope you join me for future guides. With this, the Game Music Remix series will be launching very, very soon. If you still want to get that 50% discount when it releases, you have to sign up to the email list below so that you can get notified. If you want some insight or you want to give me some input on what other guides to create, well, first you can leave a comment. Second, you can join me on the Discord. You can join for free, but I do offer 50% and 100% lifetime discount codes for all of my digital products. That is future guides, all my royalty-free music if you happen to be a game developer, and thinking about doing courses if you guys want that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this series. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next video.